us going here. So my name is Dahlberg. I founded Project Get Ready about 2 years ago. It's part of a national initiative to get 20 cities in North America to be pioneers or leaders in the adoption of plug-in electric vehicles. We formed a broad stakeholder coalition across the state with people, help like people like Wendy Lucht, Ocean State Clean Cities. We have engineers, electricians, a lot of students, professors, large companies, small businesses, people from all over. You probably have seen or heard about the Nissan Leaf. It has it's all-electric, 80-mile battery. The cost of that is about $27,500 after a federal tax credit. The Chevy Volt is about $33,500 after the federal tax credit. It has a battery that goes about 40 miles and an internal combustion engine to extend the range to about over 300 miles. The Volt GM will be producing about 60,000 of these by the end of the year. Nissan Leaf is retrofitting a plant in Tennessee. They're going to be up to about 150,000 Leafs in production per year by the end of next year, end of 2012, and they'll also make about 200,000 batteries a year there. Every major automaker is making major investments in electrification because they see this is really the way of the future with the way gasoline prices are increasing. And as Kathy would say, it's a way to save their industry. How are these vehicles charged? There's the level 1, the standard household outlet. You get 4 to 6 miles per hour. That's really an overnight charge. The level 2 is commonly referred to as the charging station. That's a 220 volt outlet, similar to your clothes dryer. That's about 12 miles per hour. So you could charge a Leaf on a level 2 charging station in about 6 hours or so. You could charge a Chevy Volt in about 3 hours. There's also DC fast charging available, which is up to 80 amps, 440 volts. That's a lot of power. It's DC, direct current, as opposed to alternating current. Get about 80 miles in 30 minutes. This is a picture of the Nissan Leaf outlet. That's the level 2 outlet there with its standard. Every vehicle in North America will have that standard coupler, and that's the DC fast charge outlet. Now, I know you guys, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, as Kathy said, hybrids are 1 to 2%. Actually, a few years ago it was just over 2.5% of the new vehicles sold. These are niche products, right? These are expensive, $7,000 to $8,000 premium versus what you'd pay with a regular vehicle. Are these things ever going to catch on? And if they do, are they going to make any difference? Well, isn't this some silly bourgeois fascination with high-tech gadgetry, federally subsidized high-tech gadgetry, to appease our consumerist guilt with greenwashing? I'm not in that picture. Well, the answer is no. And the reason plug-in electric vehicles matter is because we are the world's top oil consumer. 70% of our oil that we use goes to transportation. We use more oil in our transportation sector than any other country combined. And as you can see here, this beige line is our use of oil in the transportation sector alone. That's all the oil we use per year. It's more than 19 million barrels per day. You can see China is well below just what we use in the transport sector. And if we added up India, Russia, and Germany, they would still use less than we use just in transportation. So the bottom line is the only way we address our addiction to oil, the only way we get off oil, which is the theme today, is addressing the transportation sector. That's the most important thing I have to say. I could end it right here, but I have a few more minutes. You know, there are also all kinds of economic consequences, over $1 billion a day sent abroad for oil. The Deepwater Horizon, was mentioned before. Look, the reason oil prices are going up is because we're having to dig deeper, reach further, and go to greater extremes to get our oil. They were digging about 3 miles deep, by the way, about 15,000 feet, which isn't even close to the deepest well dug so far. But it's just getting harder and harder to get cheap oil. The era of cheap oil is over. It is over. It will never come back. It is a physical impossibility. So it's a pretty safe bet that oil prices are going to increase over time, which should make alternatives more attractive. This is Canadian tar sands. Some of you heard about the XL pipeline that's under discussion, debate. The Obama administration has a big decision to make on that. These tar sands have an enormous environmental impact. They're mostly surface mined. Some of them use twice as much water per barrel of oil as 2 times the amount of water for each barrel of oil. They also produce 10 to 40% more greenhouse gases in their life cycle. Senator Reid mentioned this. The U.S. Fifth Fleet is solely positioned to protect the production and distribution, transportation of oil in the Persian Gulf. China, the largest auto market in the world. They just surpassed the U.S. That is a real picture. It is not doctored. I'm not that good at Photoshop. That was a traffic jam outside Beijing a few years ago. It lasted 3 days. It spawned its own mini economy to feed the people that were stuck in that traffic jam. Bottom line is, it doesn't matter what we do in the U.S., really. These events are overtaking our ability to change the auto market. There is a tremendous imperative to get off oil. What's happened that's changed things? Well, technology, advances in lithium-ion batteries has made 80-mile batteries like on the Leaf possible at reasonable cost. Those prices still need to come down, though. Major federal funding for Ford, Nissan, Tesla, and Nissan, and then standardization of the couplers. Why is electrification the answer? Because it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's cheap relative to gasoline, about 1/3 of the cost. Predictably priced. Everyone knows oil prices go up and down dramatically. And it's from a diverse portfolio of domestic fuels. The subject today isn't really greenhouse gas emissions. It's getting off oil. And it's important that we address the greenhouse gas emission problem. That's critical to our future. But from a getting off oil standpoint, it's critical that we turn to electrification, because all our electricity, with a little exception of a little bit of hydro from Quebec, comes from domestic sources: coal, natural gas, uranium, wind, etc. So how will millions of EVs impact the grid? We have plenty of spare capacity. If every vehicle sold this year was a plug-in electric vehicle, we'd still have spare capacity on the grid. We have that much capacity. It's really phenomenal. There will be issues. We have to watch clustering of EVs that may require transformer upgrades or replacements. This is just some work we did with Brown students, predictive modeling to show where we think EVs will be clustered. East side of Providence, Barrington, East Greenwich, Warwick, parts of Newport there, South County. This is important again for the infrastructure issues. What obstacles remain? We got to address consumer awareness. We know first vehicles off the line will be bought quickly. People will snap them up, but we got to cross the chasm. We got to get fast followers and other people to buy them instead of just the car fanatics and the environmentalists. Battery prices have to come down, the range has to get longer, and people like Wendy Luck's husband are doing some cutting-edge battery research right here in Rhode Island. So there's great work being done to address some of these problems. Infrastructure build-out is another issue. Just some of the questions that we're trying to address here in Rhode Island. It's taken a lot of work. It's also a great partnership, moving fast. What remains to be done locally? Regional planning, stuff like Wendy's doing with NYSERDA and the other Northeast states. Uniform standards for signage. We need ADA compliance for the charging stations. No one can tell me the DMV is ready to register electric vehicles. Training first responders, model permits, model RFPs for city and state purchasing. All these things we're working on here as part of Project Get Ready. Challenges to building the infrastructure. Obviously, the cost of equipment, residential charging stations, about $2,000. Commercial can be anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000. Cost of electricity, is it given away or do people charge for it? Maintenance of charging stations, liability, networking. All these things are critical issues we need to address. So what about the emission standpoint, though? We did an analysis of carbon reduction from electric vehicles in Rhode Island based on our fuel mix in Rhode Island. This is critical. This is not based on the national fuel mix, based on Rhode Island's fuel mix, which is heavily weighted towards natural gas, we have about 20% nuclear, a small amount of coal. You can see traditional engines here came in at that standard of carbon emissions. That was well to tank, tank to wheels. You see the reduction in carbon emissions from hybrid electric vehicles. That's like a Prius, not a plug-in. And then that is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle like a Volt, and battery electric vehicle like a Leaf. So there are significant greenhouse gas reductions here locally from these vehicles, but also nationally, even nationally, looking at a total national electricity fuel mix, we still see greenhouse gas reductions. That's all I got. Thanks.